Thank you everyone for coming. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. Welcome to How Email Marketing Automation Can Revolutionize Your Winery Business. I tried practicing that 10 times and I got it. It was a mouthful. Presented by SKU Agency in partnership with Commerce7. I'm Tessa Davies with Commerce7, their Growth and Event Marketing Manager. And I'm joined today by Ramin
Ramhormozi.
Got it. SKU Agency, who will be presenting today, and also Michael Trang, who will be available during Q&A. Commerce7 has been putting on these expert partner webinars for a while now in an effort to continue to provide free quality content and maintain the great relationships we have with partners like SKU Agency. So we're very excited to have you here today. And a record-breaking amount of registrations. So it's obviously a topic that people want to learn more about. Before we get started today, just a few housekeeping items. The Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to ask questions throughout. We will have plenty of time at the end of the presentations to go through those. So as they come up through the presentation, just feel free to jot down a question. The session is being recorded, so we will be sending you the recording following this webinar. We'll also send you a link to Ramin's slide deck, so you have that as well, just in case you don't want to take notes and you want to just pay full attention. I won't delay us any further. Ramin, how are we doing on those slides?
Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, let's hope. Cross our fingers.
Okay.
That, we don't have any more technical difficulties, but we do have backup. Thankfully, awesome. I sent that to you yesterday and you got it on your end. So if you need to adjust, I will raise my hand. All right.
Take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And apologies for technical difficulties. I've actually never been in a situation like this doing a webinar and then all of a sudden Chrome completely freezes up. So I guess it happens. So we'll just run with it and hopefully everything works out great. More importantly, we're here to talk about my favorite topic, email automation marketing. And what you're going to learn today, hopefully will inspire you to take this information and run with it, do it on your own, reach out to us and have us do it for you. But above anything else, just do it, okay? Because email automation marketing is really where things are going when it comes to marketing. So before we get started, I want to personally say thank you very much to Commerce7 for inviting us here to talk about this important topic. We have followed Commerce7 for a long time. We are big fans of the software and where things are going with Commerce7. And now that Klaviyo has been integrated and has an integration, which we'll talk about that integration in just a moment. And we just think that the possibilities are absolutely endless. So thank you very much, Tessa, for making this possible. And we will get started. So my name is Ramin. I just usually go by Ramin. I don't usually throw the last name in there because it can be complicated. I'm one of the managing partners here at
Ramhormozi.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Very nice. Thank you. I'm one of the managing partners here at SKU Agency. Michael Trang, my business partner, is also on the call. I believe our digital strategists are also on the call. So we have a number of SKU Agency folks here. I've been in the e-commerce space for 25 years. Hopefully that doesn't date me. I know there's a little bit of gray in my beard here, but I've been and lived in the digital e-commerce and digital marketing space for a long time and seen a lot of things. But honestly, I'll tell you this, that email marketing automation is possibly the greatest thing I've ever seen. And we've been doing it as an agency for a long time. In fact, that is all our agency is focused on. We were solely focused on email. We do SMS as well. We'll talk about SMS as it relates to the wine industry and the winery world in just a moment, but that is our specialty. We're a 5-star agency. We are certified Klaviyo masters. And let me take a pause for a moment and talk about Klaviyo, because you're going to hear Klaviyo a lot throughout this presentation. Klaviyo is a robust email marketing platform. All of the processes and strategies we'll be discussing today will be focused on what can be done inside of Klaviyo. So if you need to know more about Klaviyo, you can go to klviyo.com. They have an unusual name, but a powerful platform, and you can take a look for yourself what it's all about. But everything today that we're discussing will be focused on what happens in Klaviyo. Can you do some of the things in other platforms like MailChimp? By all means, you can do some of the things, but there is an unbelievable level of power that can be attained within Klaviyo. So let's focus on that. Our agency was born 6 years ago in Santa Rosa, California, in the heart of Sonoma wine country. We love wine country. We big fan of wineries out there. And yes, I love all types of wines. I am a connoisseur, if you will. But we love the opportunity here of what Klaviyo and email marketing automation can do for wineries out there. So let's talk about our agenda. It's jam-packed today, and we're going to try to get everything in there as quickly as possible, get you all the information you need, try to get it into 35 to 45-minute time frame. Okay. We're going to be starting off by talking about what modern day email marketing looks like. Very different from what it used to look like even 5 years ago. We'll then go over some key marketing statistics, and I love stats. Stats get me excited about the possibilities out there. So we'll dive into maybe 4 or 5 stats. Then we'll go into the actual email marketing strategies, the actual strategies that we use. But we want to make sure that you understand what everything is in the process. So we're going to have a lot of the what and the why, then the how. Okay, the what, why, and how will be in there. We'll be getting into email capture and list building. Very important part, right? You need a list. You need to grow that list. Then we're going to get into audience segmentation. These will all be explained in detail. Then we're going to get into the actual flows, but then we're going to go specifically into core flows that every winery should be utilizing today. Like when you're off this call, when you're off this webinar, jump in and start building, start using some of the information that we're providing you today. Okay. Then we'll talk about testing and optimization. As you probably all know, those of you who do a lot of marketing for your winery, testing and optimization is key for every component of marketing, right? You don't just do something. Sometimes you have a hypothesis about what works and doesn't work, but you have to test and optimize. Then we'll talk about the results. I mean, what is this all about unless we have actual results? And we'll tell you about the results we expect from ourselves for wineries. And those are some of the results you should be expecting as well. And then we'll talk about how to get things started. What is, Klaviyo, and how do you connect it with Commerce7? We'll talk about that specifically. There'll be some time for Q&A. And then we have a special gift for everybody who has attended today. We'll talk about what that is and how to receive it. And it's definitely, everything is geared to get you on your way. So let's get things started. All right. Well, let's talk about what this modern day email marketing looks like, okay? Gone are those days of sending out that blast to the entire list, that unplanned, non-targeted promotion email. Maybe you just had it popped in your mind. And I'm not saying don't be creative and have good ideas and maybe on a whim you want to send it, but we're talking about planning things out. Everything is structured and planned because when you structure and plan things, that's where you can be and you have more time to be creative. So that unplanned, non-targeted blast, that no longer works anymore, okay? Now it's all about, so what does it look like? It's all about a deliberate, targeted email capturing process, right? We want to deliberately target people who are coming to the site, coming to the winery, and we want to capture them on our list, okay? Or we want to capture them in person. It emphasizes, modern day email marketing emphasizes precise audience segmentation. We'll dive into segmentation in a little bit, but I want you to make sure you understand what modern day email marketing is all about. It focuses on leveraging the power of email flows, also known as automations. You're going to hear that word flow and automation really kind of working hand in hand together. Okay. It's about sending consistent and targeted email campaigns. Again, we're not talking about blasts. We're not talking about newsletters. We're talking about sending these consistent, targeted campaigns. All right. And modern day email marketing is all about emails delivered. This is important, to the right person at the right time. Okay. So this isn't where everybody's getting your emails. The right people at the right time are getting it. It's very, very targeted. And that's what grows revenue. A lot of people worry and they ask us, well, I don't want to inundate my list. I don't want to inundate my list with emails. With modern day email marketing, you are not going to inundate them. You are going to give them the right information at the right time. That is how this is going to work. Okay. And ultimately, you're going to nurture a long-lasting relationship with your customer. Isn't that what it's all about? People coming into the winery, people coming online to the site, you're doing all that marketing to drive that top of the funnel traffic, as we call it, to your site, to the winery. it's all about nurturing relationships. You're having these conversations and, in the tasting room or at tasting events or at just good old fashioned, events at your winery. Why not? You're building relationships there. Why not utilize email marketing to further nurture those relationships? All right. Let's talk about the stats. I mentioned I love stats. They get me excited about the opportunities that lie ahead. 42.3% of Americans subscribe to email lists to receive savings and discounts. So if anybody tells you that email marketing is dead, that is absolutely false. All right. 42.3% of Americans subscribe to the list continuously. I know I do, and I'm sure your customers do as well. Now, this stat blew me away. There's a different stat out there for the general e-commerce market, but this data that you see on the screen, that email generates $58 for every $1 that is spent. This is compiled from current wineries using Commerce7 and Klaviyo. So there's a good number and a growing number of wineries that are already on Commerce7, that are embracing Klaviyo for their email marketing. That's where this data is coming from. So think about it for one moment. You spend $1 and you have the ability to make $58. How many marketing channels do you know that can generate that return on investment like that? I don't know too many. This is a really, really solid number. 78% of marketers have seen an increase in email engagement over the last 12 months. So again, pointing back to the fact that email marketing is not dead. People are still subscribing. People want to hear from your winery. They want to know what's happening. This is why the use of this channel continues to grow and grow for marketers out there. 10.7% of customers who receive an automated abandoned cart, and we will again dive into abandoned carts flows in a moment, complete their purchase. So wouldn't you love it if those people who are adding maybe wine, or they're adding, a club membership or other products that you may be selling on your site into the cart, and then they abandon? Wouldn't you love to at least get those people back? You had the opportunity to get 10% of them back. That's a really strong number. 78% of marketers say list segmentation, which we will cover pretty more in depth here, is the marketing automation feature they can't live without. And I know that once you hear about segmentation and what it is and the power of segmentation, you will agree with this stat. All right. And lastly, nurtured leads. We talking a lot about nurturing relationships with your customer. Nurtured leads make 47% larger purchases. And after all, the better they know your brand, through nurturing efforts done by email marketing, the more likely they are to purchase, right? It's like they become a friend. They're hearing from you regularly. You're speaking to them in their language, things that they like to hear, things that they are interested in. They are much more likely to spend more money at your winery online once you have gone through a strong nurturing process. All right. So let's talk about the first step in this process, which is email capture and list building. Again, without a list, email marketing doesn't work, all right? But I don't want you to worry and feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have a list. I don't know where to start. Therefore, I shouldn't do email marketing. That is not true. The email marketing services that we focus on, the type of strategies that we put in place, are geared to help grow your list and grow it very quickly. We're looking to capture email addresses for you. Obviously, growing a list works best if you are doing and focused on other marketing initiatives that drive traffic, social posting, paid ads, potentially, search engine optimization. We talk about that top of the funnel, right? Bringing in people to the site, bringing them into the winery. If you are consistently doing that, it makes the job of capturing so much easier. But again, don't despair. We can grow that list very quickly. That is part of what we do. So what is email capturing? All right. Well, it's the beginning of your winery's relationship with your customer, right? This is where you start to build the relationship. In the modern age, it is essential for wineries to have an effective capture form. You have to have one, okay? And it has to be very strategic, all right? We'll talk about the ways, the how-tos of doing this in just a moment. The capture form, provides customers with a convenient way to provide their contact information. You want to make it as easy as possible. They're potentially ready to drop their email address in there. All right. If they see value and it's easy, then they're more likely to put their email address in there. Email capture is a central component, right? It is, again, it is the beginning, right? We got to get the names in there. We got to get the names, and then everything else will follow. It's the beginning of your digital relationship with your winery customer. All right. And in general, when you capture a lead for the first time, it's going to trigger a welcome series. More on that in just a few minutes. So why do we need email capture? Email capture gives wineries the opportunity to communicate with their customers immediately, right away, literally from the second they add that email address into that capture form, or they come into the tasting room and they add that, they give you that information. It will fire off an automation flow, and they will start to get that communication. So keep in mind, email is less intrusive, right? Email, customers are more likely to provide you with their email address over other channels like phone and SMS. Now, SMS is a growing area, a growing marketing channel overall in the e-commerce space. It is not readily available through Klaviyo to the winery space. There are some rules and regulations that are being worked out. We're being told by Klaviyo that SMS, and just a little side note here, that SMS will be available sometime in the early part of 2023. So we will hold tight because that is a very strong, but just in this case, email is less intrusive. People are more apt to give you an email address than they are to give you a phone number or an SMS message. So this is a great place to start. So how do we go about capturing customers' email addresses? With 1.95% to 4.77% of website visitors converting to subscribers. So those people coming to your site, 1.95% to 4.77%, all right, are converting in becoming a subscriber through a capture form. That's a very good number. We always try to attain, higher the better. And there are obviously elements and strategies here that we're talking about that will help get there, okay? The capture process is central, all right? This is where it all starts. So how do we execute it? Well, first, you got to emphasize value being offered directly on the capture form. This is a two-way relationship, all right? You're asking a customer for an email address. What are you going to give them? Maybe it's an incentive, top of the, right away it's an incentive, but what else? Let's talk about what they can expect throughout this relationship. And it can be done in very, succinct copy. Okay. Incentivize your users, maybe discounting, free shipping. If you know your ideal customer and you know what they gravitate towards, then utilize that as your incentive. If you don't know what works well, then it's time to test. Let's try some different things. Let's try, a percentage off, right? Let's try free shipping. Let's try different things until we hit the sweet spot. Don't be afraid to ask more information. Asking information on a capture form is ideal because that actually is what we call first-party data, all right? That is data that you own, what you capture. But be careful not to ask too much. Maybe you want to, ask the type of wine, varietal, things like that. Maybe you want to ask, location, some other elements, but don't ask too much because the more you ask, the more the barrier to them actually putting that information. Save the lots of asking to potentially using things like quizzes as a way to capture a form. If you put a quiz in place and you can ask questions on a quiz, you can direct them to the right products, and then you can actually capture even more of that first-party data that you need and get them into this whole email funnel, okay? Determine the best capture form actions. Is it a timed pop-up, all right? Are they landing on the site 7 seconds later, 10 seconds later, they see this pop-up and then they're putting it in? Sometimes people find that, to be a little bit annoying. We like to experiment a lot with exit intent. All right. That is when somebody is leaving the site. All right. They came, they saw, maybe they did something, they clicked around, but they didn't take action. They didn't purchase anything, and they decide to leave the site for whatever reason. We don't exactly know why, but what we do is then we fire up a pop-up, okay, on the exit intent. And maybe on that, we're offering them a discount, some sort of incentive to get them on the list. Even possibly if you do a lot of blogging, if you write a lot of blogs, maybe you post a lot of recipes to your site, maybe that's an opportunity also to embed a form, an inline form into the blog itself, and to give them the opportunity to put their information in, right? They're reading a blog, they're very interested. Maybe it's a fourth of the way through the blog and they have, interested in this topic and other topics like this, put in your email address and we'll get you on the list. And that's going to fire off a welcome series, which again, we'll talk about shortly. Maybe it's a sticky form at the top. It always follows them around. Or maybe it's a combination of all of these strategically done. So they're not all showing up at the same time. Maybe there's specific pages where these are showing up. There's a myriad of different capture forms that can be tested through Klaviyo. You can build these inside of Klaviyo, and then you can test them. You can test them one at a time. You can test a couple of them at the same time. You can see which one has the best traction, again, to get to that 9.5% to 4.77%. All right. Now, this is important. Be clear about the opt-out. All right. Even if it's in small, slightly grayed out letters right underneath the call to action button on the capture form, let them know they can get out of this relationship. All right. We don't want them to leave, right? We don't want anybody to leave, but we also want them to know that they can get out at any time. That is going to make them feel comfortable. And if they can see that, most people know that they can unsubscribe, right? Most people know that, but it's nice to reinforce it and remind them. And then also just consider what pages the pop-up will appear. If you're doing a lot of advertising, for example, then maybe you want to direct and you're sending them to specific, wines on your site, maybe to your club page. Maybe that's where you want the pop-up to show up, not throughout the site. So there are a number of different strategies you can put in place when it comes to the pop-up. All right, now let's move on to segmentation. All right. Segmentation is the next most important element in email marketing. And this is not taking away anything from flows and campaigns and things like that. This is saying that if we can capture correctly, and then we can segment regularly and segment by, put very important segments together, then we have a better opportunity of reaching the right people at the right time. All right, so what is segmentation? Segmentation is the fastest way to group your winery leads and customers into ultra precise audiences. Segments offer groupings of contacts defined by a set of conditions, all right? Segmentation is the fastest way to group these people together. It gives you that opportunity to be very, very precise, okay? So why do we need it, all right? Why don't we just blast the whole list like we used to do potentially? Well, the reason we do this is the reason for segmentation. It allows wineries to target the messages based on the latest shopping behavior. Is this somebody who, it's constantly abandons cart? Is this a person who purchases from us once a week? There's all this amazing amount of data that Klaviyo can capture as you go on this email marketing journey. The more data that you can capture, the better understanding you have of your shopping behavior. And then predictive analytics. And I just want to talk about predictive analytics. So segmentation allows wineries to target messages based on the latest shopping behavior, customer data, and even predictive analytics. All right, so I'll elaborate on predictive analytics just briefly. So as an example, predictive analytics would be using software, maybe third-party software or in-house data that you've been gathering, all right, that can determine a club member's tenure, all right, which we know currently is on average about 13 to 16 months. And based on that data, creating a segment so automated messages can go out ahead of that time, that churn, that potential churn, and ensure that they remain part of the club and that they possibly even upgrade, right? We want them to upgrade. Now, this is just an example of some predictive analytics in here. And this is where segmentation works really, really well. So what do we do? How do we get this segmentation working? And I just say this, that, in our agency and when we work with clients, we are constantly looking at opportunities to build new segments. Sometimes the segments are small, by the way. Sometimes there's 20 people in the segment, but they're the 20 perfect people to receive that message related to the segment that they're in. Okay. So again, that notion of, I don't want to bombard my customer. You're getting this, you've put these people in a segment. They're getting specific information, whether it be a flow or a campaign, as it relates to the segment that they're in. Okay. So get super specific on your segments. All right. Again, early days, you may just be capturing a little bit of information on your email capture forms, and those may determine the segments that you have. And as time goes on, more data comes into Klaviyo, the more opportunity you have, more sales come through Commerce7 that is connected with Klaviyo, the more opportunity you're going to have to build additional segments. So Look at location of the lead that's coming in. That could be a segment. Maybe you want to segment by people who are, an hour or less away from the winery, because whenever you do events, you want to have the greatest attendance on your events, and you want to get that information in front of the people who are closest to the winery. They can be there, right? Instead of blasting your whole list and telling them, hey, listen, we're having an event, and maybe, half the people on the list are in other states. They visited your winery before. That's not relevant information for them. There isn't anything they can do with that, right? They can't come to that event. So you may want to segment based on location. You may want to segment, and you should, I shouldn't say may, you definitely should segment based on club membership, by tier as well. So if you have multiple tiers in your club, then you want to put people in the correct tier, because again, you want to speak to them about the tier that they're in, as well as having an opportunity, if they're on maybe one of the lower tiers, to upsell them into a higher tier. And if you know what tier they're in, easily you can do that. Maybe by the types of wines they like, all right? You may want to put them in specific categories based on the types of wines that they like. You can see the graphic on the right-hand side here. It kind of shows you just an example of what a segmentation looks like inside of Klaviyo. Have they visited a winery in the past? All right. It's easier to have a conversation about the things that your winery has and has to offer if people have been to the winery. So let's maybe create a segment that is people who have visited the winery in the past. Maybe annual spend, this is an opportunity to create VIP lists and to speak to the VIP customers in a different way than you speak with everybody else. Are they engaged with your emails? Maybe, have they opened your emails in the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Look at that and consider creating segments, okay? Use preferences in your capture form. We talked about that. So again, don't ask too much in your capture form, all right? And if you have a lot to ask, maybe it's a better idea to consider a quiz or some type of survey where you can enhance that, what we call first-party data. And also consider these few other elements here. You got to monitor and optimize your segments regularly. This is not a set it and forget it concept, all right? You've got to be in there. You've got to look at the segments. Sometimes, somebody ends up in a segment. Maybe they shouldn't be. Maybe they're, on cross between two segments. You got to keep an eye on it. We consistently optimize. And listen, it's also going to give you a creative opportunity to build new segments once you're looking at your existing segments. And also within Klaviyo, you can sync up with Facebook and Instagram to target lookalike audiences. So that can become a segment inside of Klaviyo. You can also sync up with Google Ads as well. It's a new offering that Klaviyo has, and we can sync you up with your Google Ads account so you can do more targeted advertising within Google. All right. Talked about segments, talked about capture forms. Now let's talk about flows. This is the exciting part. This is where we start to generate revenue, right? All right. Flows, again, also known as automations, those words are going to be used interchangeably, allow wineries to tailor communications to their subscribers based on specific triggers, all right? So flows are fully automated, all right? Once you create it, they save time. We'll talk about triggers in just a second. Triggers are actions that are taken. Maybe the trigger is they add their name to the capture form for the first time. That triggers a welcome flow, all right? Maybe they placed an order. Then we want to send them follow-up emails about, getting them to become a repeat, purchase, replenishment. That could fire off a replenishment flow. When you add people to a segment within Klaviyo, that could be a trigger as well. Flows are sent to a segmented list, always to a segmented list of potential customers. They can be sent at specific times, specific days, by the way, all right? Doesn't have to be done on any set. You can set those parameters. You can add personalization into a flow, all right? You can add those variables in there, like the person's name. How great is it when you get an email and your name is in the subject line, or your name is, in there spelled correctly. And the first line, it's not, hi, first name, last name. It's just hi, first name, like it should be. All right. Maybe it's a variable in there, personalization variable in there that allows you to put in the type of wine that they recently purchased or the club that they belong to. All right. All of these can be put into flows. Flows help customer retention at the end of the day. So why do we do these automated flows? Well, simply put, flows can help wineries build better relationships with their customers and sell more products, reduce club churn, and of course, grow your revenue. right? Listen, we're in it to grow revenue. We're building relationships. We're doing a lot of other things, but we want to grow revenue. All right. Listen, we understand that in a winery, you may be wearing several hats. Okay. Several hats. We get it. Okay. Flows can help take a lot of the burden off of you when you're wearing that marketing hat. All right. There are automations that are created. All right. They're huge time savers, not to mention revenue generators. Okay. But again, I'm going to stress this. Flows are also not a set it and forget it concept. All right. You may build it and run it for a while on the welcome, but then you're in there and you have to be optimizing. You have to test. That is an ongoing process that has to be done. All right. Now we understand what the flows are. Let's talk about the essential flows that every winery should be using today. All right. So I want you to get off this webinar and I want you to really think hard about these essential flows. And I want you to start putting them to action. If you don't want to put them in action yourself, I want you to reach out to us. We'll talk more about that at the end and let us help you because they work. Okay. We know they work. Let's start off with the welcome flow. All right. We've mentioned a few times that the welcome flow is triggered by people signing up for your list, maybe coming into the tasting room, putting their email address, giving your email address to you for the first time. So the welcome flow is a sequence of emails you send out to new subscribers in order to establish brand awareness and to educate them on your product and service. Now, remember, I said educate them on your product or service, okay? It is, because I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, the first formal communication between your winery. It's the first formal communication, right? Potentially somebody signing up on your site, somebody joining the club for the first time. These are all the first formal communication. The welcome flow is one of the most powerful flows in email marketing. Now, it is not meant to convert. It's not a conversion specific flow, but it happens to be the most powerful, and it also generates a lot of revenue. This could be your first chance to make that great first impression, right? You put a lot of emphasis into, your events, tasting room, that experience, that in-person experience. The same thought should be going into your first impression through email marketing. The welcome flow emails allow you to set the tone for future emails. You're basically going to set customers up for, this is what to expect from us. Talking about that value, the value proposition. Why did they sign up? You give a little bit of that information on the capture flow, but then the welcome takes over and helps them understand what to expect from your winery and in further communications. So what's the why behind this welcome flow? We always need to know the why, right? Well, the welcome flow gives you an opportunity to make a great first impression. We talked about, talk about the benefits of joining the wine club, all right? And tell your brand story. We want to tell that brand story at the end of the day, right? The welcome flow is triggered, right? Back to triggered when someone signs up for the email for the first time. Maybe they join your wine club for the first time, or they come into an in-person event or come into the tasting room for the first time, and they hand over their email address. It immediately, literally, by the way, if they're in the, you can set delays on these, okay? But they could potentially get an email from you if you decided, within a few minutes of showing up in the tasting room and handing over that email address. Or it could be a little bit further down the road, maybe an hour or so, once they've left. But it's going to keep your winery top of mind, all right? So how do we create the most effective welcome flow? We recommend 3 to 6 emails in this flow. Now, we don't always get to 6, but we like that range, minimum of 3. Okay. But 3 to 6 emails in this flow. You want to thank your customer. That should be the first email. Thank you very much for signing up. Thank yous go a long, long way. Welcome them to the winery. Welcome them. Tell them about it. Okay. Introduce them to your brand. Talk about the history. This part I love, by the way. I love, whenever a winery has rich and long history and they talk about it, great grandfather, and grandmother started this winery. Back in the early 1900s, if the story is there, tell it. Doesn't mean it has to be there, but tell the story. People are fascinated by history, especially when in this business. Explain your values. All right. Maybe, you are about sustainability. Maybe that is an important element for your business. Talk about it. Introduce products in the 3rd or 4th email. Do not do it in the beginning. Okay. This is, again, Conversions are secondary. We are not trying to sell products. We are trying to educate people on the brand and your history. Okay. And if you have accolades and awards, talk about them, put them in there. Don't boast about them, but just make them a subtle mention of awards that you've won. People will see those, they will recognize them. All right. Let's talk about the next important flow. Abandoned cart. I'm sure you've all received abandoned cart flows, right? From one of your favorite online stores, any one of them, think about them, okay? They're heavily used in the world of e-commerce, and they should also be used in email marketing automation for a winery. So what's the what behind this, right? The abandoned cart flow is a sequence of emails sent to users who abandon cart. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? That's okay, right? That becomes part of the trigger. But keep in mind, look at this number: 70% of carts are being abandoned, right? That's general across all e-commerce. With that many, wouldn't you love to at least recover some sales? All right, this is your opportunity with abandoned cart. If you have very low abandoned cart rates, great. Maybe you can even make them lower. Always strive to make things better, but that's what the abandoned cart will do. It is triggered when a customer adds wine, club membership, or other products to their cart and does not complete the purchase. They leave, all right? They go on, do something else. We want to start going after them, right? Letting them know, reminding them, all right? And here's how to create a high converting abandoned cart flow. Generally 1 to 3 emails. We like to send our first email out somewhere in the hour to 2 hour mark. We don't want too much time to go by so they forget about why they were there. We then want to send out a second one, maybe 24 hours, roughly around there, but we're studying data to see what works. We may adjust those numbers. These are not set in stone numbers. And then maybe if there's a third one involved, maybe we're doing it around the 48-hour mark, okay? We want to be gentle and classy in our copy. You run a classy operation, right? We don't want to get pushy in our sales copy, but we want to we want to help them, all right? We want to provide customer service. Potentially you're using maybe some software out there called Redchirp. Maybe some of you are using Redchirp, which is a text-based messaging system. That is an opportunity to send people into that software so they can have customer service related communication in there. And then ultimately you want to make sure that the products are in there. And that's where Klaviyo comes in. You're able to display the products that they've abandoned and have nice, strong call to actions. And if you have margins to work with, possibly you want to put an incentive in there on that third and last email, whichever one that last email is. Maybe it's the second or the third. Don't always do the incentive. People get used to the incentives. We don't want anybody to get used to, hey, I'll just sit back and wait for that third email and boom, I'll get my discount. We don't want to do that. Okay. Next, let's talk about club retention flow. Okay. Club retention flow. We know how important the club is to the winery business. It's essential. Let's talk about how this works. All right. I heard this great quote the other day. It said, retention is the new acquisition. And it's so true, right? Retention is the new acquisition. We are now more focused on retention in some cases than we are in acquisition. As a club manager, wine club manager, you have a lot on your plate. We get it, right? We talk about wearing all these different hats. Most importantly, growing that club membership is really important. Club churn, that's going to eat into those numbers, and wineries hate to receive those requests. I'm sure you all hate to receive those requests. So what is this retention? The club flow retention is a series of emails geared to keep members from churning and or winning back these members who have left completely, who've decided to end their membership, all right? We want to get them before they churn, right? We want to get them before that tenure is up. But if they do leave, that's going to be part of the retention process, all right? So why do we do this? So with an industry average, club churn about 28 to 32%. That's what we're seeing and hearing. It's a big problem. So it's a dreaded problem, quite frankly, in my opinion. Nobody wants to see anybody leave a club, right? So using club retention flows reduces that churn and even helps win back and grow revenues and enhances loyalty. So, right? You can enhance loyalty through this flow, all right? So what triggers the flow? Well, the club retention flow is triggered when someone requests to cancel a club membership and or 2 weeks before the average tenure of your wine club member, right? So we know that data. We have that data in Klaviyo. As we start to work together and we build out all these segments, we understand that data. and we're getting ahead of the problem before it happens. But if it does happen, we also have, as part of the flow, try to get them to come back. All right. So let's talk about that whole process. Generally, we do about 1 to 3 emails in this flow. Okay. Again, these are not solid numbers. If we feel like there's an opportunity for a 4th email, we're going to do it. These aren't set in stone numbers. These are just guidelines, if you will. We want to definitely get ahead of the churn. We want to have that, that email going out 2 weeks before the membership is supposed to end, the tenure is over. Focus on saving cancellation. Okay. Know your member persona and speak to them in their language. Right. This isn't about don't get pushy, classy content, right? Classy content. Offer customer service. Lead them to where they can ask questions. Survey them. Let's find out. The ones who are leaving, let's ask questions. Let's do a survey and link to that survey in one of the emails, asking them why they're leaving the club. If we know why they're leaving the club, we can make some changes. All right. Offer incentives, possibly shipping. You want to skip the next club, option to pause instead of canceling, and then offer to downgrade to a different tier. Don't throw all of these incentives at them all at once. All right. Do it over time. All right. Now let's talk about the last flow, which is a wine replenishment. All right. So let's recap. Welcome, abandoned cart, club retention, and now we're talking about wine replenishment. So let's say a customer visits your winery, tastes some amazing wine, they buy it, they leave, maybe get on a plane, go to back home. How about reminding them about replenishing their supply of that wine or getting them into the club? Okay. Maybe they didn't join right then and there, but they took the wine home and we're assuming they loved it. Let's get them in there. Maybe even giving them a recipe, a pairing recipe as part of this. Build that loyalty. It's essentially the wine replenishment flow is a series of emails geared to automatically remind customers to stock up more of the wine that they recently purchased. Okay. And why do we do it? The wine replacement flow provides wineries with an opportunity to cultivate loyal long-term customers and influence that all-important repeat purchase. All right. We spend a lot of money on acquiring. All right. We want to work on retention. All right. Retention is a new acquisition. Why not focus on those efforts? So when a customer purchases wine, either in person or online, this is the trigger. After a specific amount of time passes and they don't purchase again, the wine replenishment is activated. That flow starts going out. And here's some important details on how to make that work. Generally 1 to 4 emails in that flow. Determine a repurchase threshold. You got to know, when are you expecting them to buy again? You want to thank customers for the original purchase. Remind them of what they bought. They may have come on this trip and purchased from many different wineries. Remind them who you are, what your values are, why your winery, you feel your winery is the best, and remind them of what they purchased. Okay. And provide them with strong call to action buttons to reorder. Simple click CTAs, click the button, boom. You're literally landing on that product to reorder, or you're literally going into the club page and you're looking and deciding on which club to go with. All right. There, by the way, so those are 4 essential flows. There are many, many other flows, okay, that we build out for wineries, but we don't do them all at once. We always start with the core flows. Okay. And of course, over the time and engagement, if you're working with our agency, we're constantly assessing based on segmentation and customer behavior, what other flows to build. Okay. And test, optimize. All right. Let's talk about campaigns really quickly. I know we're coming up on time. We've covered all those essential flows. Let's talk about campaigns. All right. Again, let's remember these are not blasts and these are not newsletters. All right. Campaigns are an ideal way to inform your winery customer about new wines, sales, tasting room, events, club announcements. All right. They're very targeted. Why should you be doing these campaigns? You absolutely should be doing campaigns in addition to the flows. You don't just do the flows, you have to do the campaigns as well. Campaigns help nurture customers. They keep customers engaged and ultimately drive winery revenue. All right. Here's some tips on creating a good campaign strategy. Create a 3-month campaign calendar. All right. Think about all the key events that you're going to be doing throughout the year. Great time to do it. Think about 2023. All the major announcements you want to make, promotions, things like that. Get those all into the campaign calendar. All right. It is an opportunity to be fluid. And we generally want to send between 2 to 4 campaigns per month. But if you have a need to send more, that's okay. All right. Reference your style guide, your design style guide, to make sure that the design you can design inside of Klaviyo, the beautiful templates that we, when we do them fully custom to match the look and feel of your winery. Optimize the content and use resends. Okay. So a lot of times you're going to send out a campaign and people don't open it for whatever reason. They didn't get it. Subject line didn't resonate with them. Something happened. They're not checking their emails often. We can see that in Klaviyo. And what we do is we trigger off a resend immediately, generally like right away, we'll send it out. So we're looking at those open rates. Did they open that first email? If they didn't, then they're going to go into a resend segment and we're going to fire off. It's our opportunity, by the way, to also tweak the messaging a little bit. Maybe the subject line should change a little bit to capture their attention. Keep your copy short and to the point on campaigns. Use strong call to actions, CTAs, okay? And send either to your entire list if you want to, or go to specific segments, all right? And then use beautiful graphics to help tell your story. All right, kind of moving through this quickly now. Optimization, all right? You have to test and optimize. This is not a set it and forget it concept here. It allows you, testing and optimization allows you to compare and contrast different elements of your forms, your capture forms, the flows, and campaigns to see what is working and what is not working. How do you know what's working unless you're looking at the data? All right. Testing and optimization allows you to make informed, data-driven decisions. That's how we do it with email marketing. We do data-driven decisions. All right. Some ideas here. Test subject lines. Don't test what I'm going to show you here. Don't test everything all at the same time. You want to test one thing at a time. You want to test maybe subject line first. Is the length too long? Topic is maybe you need to change that. Should you add personalization, like their name in there? Maybe an emoji. All right. People, that's commonly done. Then maybe you want to do an imagery test. Maybe your images aren't, capturing. These are hypotheses. You have a lot of hypotheses. Potentially you want to change copy, day and time tests. Okay. And then your call to action. Is it resonating? Is it higher up on the page? Is it getting their attention? Are they clicking? If they're not, let's try some different CTAs. All right. So you put in all this hard work. We understand results are imperative to a successful email marketing campaign. We get it. So that's what we strive for. We commit, on our end, we're constantly working to improve email marketing results. We do not set it and forget it. And we recommend you don't do the same thing. We do this through understanding your ideal customer, right? We get in there and really understand your ideal customer. We create and execute effective email flows for you, campaigns, build that campaign calendar, and then we consistently test and optimize, make changes, and then we report back to you. And you should report to yourself. If you're doing it yourself, you should be in there every month looking at the data and talking to, the stakeholders at your winery. So here's some things you should expect from a well-executed email marketing strategy. Oops, good numbers there. An increase of 40% or more in revenue over time. 40%. That's what we strive for. Automations will save you time and resources. Okay. Stronger long-term relationships with your customers. The ability to retain more wine club customers. Very important, right? Turning your tasting room visitors into club members faster. All right. Want to get those people into the club. And better customer targeting. All right. So those are the results. Let's talk about the next steps. Okay. We're nearing the end. Got 2 more slides left. We provided you with the details on creating powerful flows and campaigns, as well as shed some light on testing and optimization and how it all works. Let's talk about the next steps and what you should be doing. If you're not going to reach out to us and have us do it for you, what you should be doing today to get this going. First, you got to be on Commerce7. All right. As you probably know, Commerce7 is a state-of-the-art SaaS platform for wineries to offer modern direct-to-consumer e-commerce solutions. It offers point of sale, club, CRM. Those of you in reservation and tasting room reservation capabilities. If you're already on Commerce7, awesome. Okay. What's the next thing you need? You need to get on Klaviyo. You need to go to klaviyo.com, Klaviyo.com, and you need to sign up, okay, for the email marketing. Again, they offer SMS, but SMS is not ready yet for wineries. It is a great platform. It is a platform we have been using for years, okay? And then what's the last step in this process? Well, you need to go to the App Store, the Commerce7 App Store, and you need to get the Digimatic. And I know Bodhi's on this call, and Bodhi, you have built an amazing integration, and Bodhi is incredible help in getting that, making that work. you need to get that Digimatic integration for Klaviyo. And Digimatic is a best-in-class integration between Commerce7 and Klaviyo, and an essential piece of software needed. You got to have this to get the most out of both platforms. They have to speak to each other. Klaviyo has to be able to see the data inside of Commerce7. It has to see club data. It has to see customer data, e-com, direct consumer e-commerce data, tasting room reservations. It has to be able to see all that data, and Digimatic software makes that happen. And then we get in there and we start building out the flows, and our service is a done for you service. Okay. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Got a little blank screen there. All right. So if you want that 40% or more, of direct consumer revenue, reach out to us. Okay. We are a team of highly focused email marketing specialists. This is all we do every single day. All right. We're registered and certified Klaviyo masters. All right. Our email marketing service is a done for you. We write the copy, we design, we test, we optimize, we build out all those essential flows. We build out the campaigns, build out the content calendar. We do all of this for you. But if you want to do it yourself and you want to bring it in-house, but you need some place to start, definitely reach out to us and we can set it all up for you and train your team on how to do it as well. We do have that service as well. That is not our ongoing service, but the ongoing service is really where you're going to start to see amazing results. All right. Scan that QR code with your phone. Okay. That'll lead directly to my calendar where you can book a 15-minute intro call. All right. You can just find out more, ask more questions. We can get to know each other. We can see if it's a good fit moving forward. Or you can go to skuagency.com, skuagency.com/wine. You can read all about what we do for wineries. You can then click there and book a call as well. It has been great having everybody here. I guess I'll open it up now to questions, and I'll stay silent.
Thank you so much, Ramin. That was fantastic. I was taking some notes as well. Really, really great stuff there. Love all those stats. I mean, I'm a sucker for some stats.
I am too. I love them.
We do have some questions that I will let Michael ask. I just want to mention we will be probably going a few minutes past 11. So if you can, please stay on to listen to these great questions. If you do need to hop off, feel free. But take it away, Michael.
Yeah, no, thank you, Tessa and Ramin. Awesome presentation, per usual. Great info. I know I always learn a little bit extra after watching it as well, even though we've literally worked together. So, so there are a handful of questions here. I see two of them that have come up that are very similar, and it's a question we figured that would be asked. But basically, why not use MailChimp? Why Klaviyo over MailChimp? And Ramin, feel free to answer it.
Great. Great question. Great question. I think, at the end of the day, Klaviyo is, built on, it's a list, right? A lot of lists, all right? MailChimp. Klaviyo, on the other hand, is really based on profiles, and the data that can be captured within Klaviyo is unbelievable. And again, that integration Digimatic is created that allows us to see that. And the power of building these segments, really at the end of the day, capturing is definitely important, but the ability to build these segments and then take action on these segments, that's where Klaviyo really, really shines. And MailChimp doesn't have, MailChimp does have flows. And then we're not here to bash MailChimp. Many of you may be using it, but if you want to take your email marketing to another level, you got to go with Klaviyo. And Michael, feel free to chime in with anything else from your end.
Yeah, sure. I will say also MailChimp, the way I guess the pricing is structured is within Klaviyo, you can kind of basically build out the flows with as many different levels as you want. Whereas in MailChimp, you get to a certain level, you're on a certain price point. It's hey, you got to upgrade to the next plan, right? To add whatever, 4 more actions. And those actions could be a time delay or an email, or you want to split it up into, 2 different conditional flows or something. So it kind of it kind of slows down the workflow. And to Ramin, to your point, the data is just so much better in Klaviyo. I mean, I have Klaviyo up here right now, and I mean, it's bringing in data, placed order data, fulfilled order data, refunded order, everything that goes in there. It's just a better tool to work with that we have found, because we've worked with both of them historically in our agency. And just like any other contractor, it's just like a contractor, it's this is just the best tool that we have found, right? You got hammer number 1 over here, MailChimp, and you got hammer over here, Klaviyo, and this one we have just found works better for our purposes. So, Yeah, let's see. The next question, let's see. This one's somewhat long. So considering most of us use Commerce7, the welcome email might be different considering new emails come from website signups, people who just do a tasting, people who purchase wine, and people who have joined the club.
Mhm.
Should these be different? Is kind of the first part of the question.
Yeah. I get, well, let me answer, I'll answer the first part. They can be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Really think about from this concept of it's, back to, it's your first opportunity to, get in front of them, to educate them on, it's a brand building. The Welcome Series is a brand building opportunity. How they touched your brand, that is important. And we're not taking anything away from that. And if you feel this, this need to speak to them in a different way, that's fine. You can do that. You can create one and you can replicate it, change copy, change imagery, things like that. But really at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is build a brand, right? You're trying to get that awareness in front of them. And that's, that's an important component. And that can a lot of times be achieved with one welcome flow. Okay. But know that that capability is there. And, if it is a strategy that we look at and we talk to you, in our intake, and we decide together that that's probably a better way. Maybe we do two different welcome flows, one specific to club, and then maybe one to everybody else. That can be done. Michael, any further thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I'll speak to, Klaviyo's functionality and kind of like the conditional splits as well. You can have, the user come into the flow and then basically have Klaviyo run like a conditional split, basically like a yes or no, right? Like, did this person purchase online or did this person purchase from the tasting room? And there's different ways to configure it. That's kind of like the overarching kind of like strategy, right? And then based on that, you can send them down to two separate like first email welcome flows. And then after that, you can basically bring them back in together into kind of like the main flow. So that's the kind of like stuff that we can do inside of Klaviyo using the conditional splits and the filters and things like that. So technically, yeah, I mean, if you want to split it up to two separate flows or three different flows based on how that user is entering or interacting with your winery, then you can definitely do that. But if it's easier to consolidate, which we found consolidation's like way easier to kind of like look at and analyze kind of everything all in one place, then we can do it that way too. Really, it really is just what your customer journey looks like, the entry points, and like addressing all of them.
Yeah, those conditional splits become powerful. Essentially, you're essentially in some ways creating two flows, but only in a certain part of that flow. You're splitting off, but then you're bringing everybody back, and really you only have then ultimately one flow. Hope that makes sense. Much easier to see it in action.
Yeah. Let's see here. We still good on time, Tessa? Maybe like one or two more.
We can do two more.
Two more. Okay, cool. Let's see. So, what tactics should be used when optimizing current flows?
Again, depends on which flow we're talking about, but I mean, all of them are going to have an optimization process in there, right? We're going to be looking at, everything. We're looking at subject lines. We're looking at, we're looking at copy. We're looking at, if we're doing any type of conditional split, we're looking at the segment that they're going into. So those are some of the components. Michael, you're definitely a lot closer into the execution of this. So speak to, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, of course. So just for reference, I work on kind of the production side as far as like the organization is concerned. So I work pretty closely with our strategists, designers, developers, or not developers, our copywriters, which is why Ramin mentioned I'm a little bit closer to it. So as far as optimizing current flows, it really depends on what you're trying to optimize, right? Are you optimizing open rate, click-through rates? Are you noticing for whatever reason, one particular email within your flow is winding up in the spam folder a lot? So you have a deliverability issue potentially with that particular email. So once you identify what you're trying to optimize, you basically just go in and you kind of change it and test it against, with the new content that you have in there or whatever you're trying to test. With deliverability, it's a little bit different just because you have to kind of run through kind of more of a technical process to make sure that your domain is in check and everything's okay there. And that's a whole thing that you probably don't want to be bored with because it involves DKIM records and DNSs. But yeah, I think the first step is to identify what you need to optimize. And those benchmarks are inside of Klaviyo. Actually, and I think what's the nice thing about Klaviyo is they release these benchmark numbers based on your industry, right? And they release it, I think, at around like every 10th of every month.
Yeah.
Every quarter. Okay.
I think it's
so
every
yeah,
quarter
you can compare. you can compare your data versus the industry standard. So now you know what you need to improve on when that time comes.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool. Let's see here. All right, last one. Can you talk more about the built-in A/B testing features?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe, Michael, maybe you want to take this one again, very closer to production.
Yeah. So I guess with the A/B testing features, so obviously, you know, Ramin mentioned you can do subject line testing, you can test copy, you can test imagery, all within that A/B testing. You can do it within a couple of different campaign email sends, and then Klaviyo will give you kind of the winner of that particular test. So it really depends. It depends, and again, it's one of those things where, as marketers, you know, we have a hypothesis, and we put forth what we think has the highest percentage of converting, depending upon what conversion we're trying to accomplish. And then obviously we have other ideas as well. So this is the opportunity to test those subject lines, to test those preview texts, because preview text is also important when you're scrolling through your inbox. Emojis, if you want to play the emoji game. I personally steer away from emojis because you're kind of rolling the dice on whether or not whether or not it works with your customer base, but things like that. So all that is built into Klaviyo, and you're able to kind of basically inside of Klaviyo, when you're setting up either a campaign or a flow, you can kind of set those things up to test.
Yeah. Great questions, everybody. I know we're, over time at this point. I just want to, just quickly say, and you're going to receive information on this. We hope the webinar really sets the tone for where you want to go with email marketing. And we're here to help. By all means, reach out to us. We'd love to work with you. But as a thank you for coming to today's, for everybody who attended, we're going to send you the must-have email automation flows for your winery. It's a guide. It's pretty comprehensive. It's going to give you a lot of how-tos within there. You can also reach out to us. That's going to come shortly after this webinar is over from hello@skuagency.com. So if you don't see it in your inbox, check your spam folder. Hopefully we'll get into your inbox, but it could be the first time we're reaching out to you. But just double check there. It's coming from hello@skuagency.com. And we have really appreciated it. And I just want to say again, thank you very much to Commerce7. Tessa, thank you so much for the opportunity. Everybody who came today, we love talking about this topic. So look forward to hearing from you. Look forward to seeing and learning what you were doing with email marketing. So thank you again.
Thank you. And thank you so much for that fantastic gift. That's really valuable to have that toolkit for every winery. So thank you so much for taking the time to present to us today for free. We're not paying you. So thank you.
No, we just love talking.
Was that an option?
We really appreciate it. And we will, Commerce7 will be emailing you the slide deck today and also this recording, so you can have it forever and go to it whenever you need it. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.